Tonight, our first speaker is Devon. Help me welcome Devon.
Hi, my name is Devon. I'm an alcoholic. Before I start, I want to thank all of the home group members, the people that show up early and make this meeting possible. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah, the people that are the home group members that show up and make this meeting possible, it's a big deal. My sobriety date is February 19th, 2017. That's not when I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous. I first came to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 17 years old. I was brought into a meeting. I didn't want to be there. I really couldn't relate with any of the things that I heard. In my eyes, I saw a bunch of people that were a lot older than I was and a lot further down the road in life was. And as far as I could tell, I still had a lot more drinking and using and stuff like that I still had to get done. So I didn't hang around very long. So like I said, my sobriety date is February 19th, 2017. I have a sponsor. He taught me that if I had a sponsor and I didn't have a home group, that I needed to fire the sponsor, which was him. So in other words, what he was saying was get a home group or get another sponsor. I'm a firm believer in the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's important to have a place that I go every week where people see me and people know me and they know who I am and I know who they are. It's important for me to be a part of because I was never a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was somebody that used Alcoholics Anonymous. I went in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for about 6 years. I learned something when I first went in at 17. I learned that every time that I got backed into a corner by the family, or every time that I got in a little bit of trouble, or every time that I ran out and I didn't have anywhere else to go, I could run to Alcoholics Anonymous, or I could run to treatment. And I continued to do that for the next 6 years, like I was saying. So, about the home group. I do have a home group. My home group is the Friday night speaker meeting in Prescott Valley. It's been my home group for the last, a year and a half probably. And like I said, it was taught to me early on that the emphasis of being a part of, being a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, being in the fellowship. So, I'll just get into it. I don't remember, I look all the way back as far as I can remember, and I don't remember a time in my life when I was not restless, irritable, and discontent. I didn't ever want to be who I was, where I was, or doing what I was doing. I was not comfortable in my own skin. When I look back to when I was a little kid, I always felt uncomfortable. So as life kind of goes along, when I'm 13 years old, I discover alcohol, and I take a drink, and I realize that I have this experience that makes me feel like a whole human being for the first time. I'm comfortable in my skin. I can move through life with ease. At first, I get this experience of being able to breathe, and it's a very powerful and elusive experience to me. So elusive that I can't discern the true from the false. And I pretty much hit the ground running. And by the time I was 15, I was an everyday drunk. I was hooking school and drinking, and by the time I was 17, as I said, I come into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. So the thing that I learned in the 6 years that I went in and out is I learned about progression. I learned about, that I have a disease, and it's called alcoholism, and it centers in my mind, right? And it's the three-part disease. It's physical, mental, and spiritual. So I have a physical allergy at alcohol, coupled by a mental obsession, and then a spiritual malady. And what I realized was so let me back up basically. So I go in and out, and I have this experience when I'm 19, right? I almost died when I was 19 years old. I went into liver failure, and because I was drinking so much, and I end up in the ICU, and the whole works, there's like, and the way that my brain works, I don't think that, I can't see that this is like a big deal. I'm thinking, well, I just need to get detoxed and then I'm going to be fine. And the people that are around me are like, you're crazy. Anyways, this doctor comes in. I've been in the hospital one night. This doctor comes in, and she's looking at me, and she's saying, you know, you're going to die, and there's nothing we can do for you. And this priest comes in and starts praying with me and my family, and I'm just, like, bewildered. Like, I never thought that I was going to die. You know, I just always thought that I was going to, you know, I still had this thinking where I'm going to figure my way out of it, basically. And but what that experience did to me is it didn't really get me sober, but it scared me. It scared me enough that I decided that I was actually going to kind of give this a try. So I went into a treatment center like I had done before, and I got out of there, and I went to Alcoholics Anonymous like they said. And I did that for the next 2 years. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous. But I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really a part of Alcoholics Anonymous. I kind of showed up when the meeting started, and I left right when I got over. I never held any commitments. I never shared during the meeting. I never sponsored any guys. I did kind of work steps with a sponsor, but I didn't, you know. Basically what I was experiencing was I had come to terms with the fact that I was powerless over alcohol. I knew that once I took a drink, I couldn't stop. But what I was stuck on was the unmanageability, the second half of the first step. And that was just the refusal. I just refused to believe that I couldn't run my own life. You know, so in my eyes, when at that time, what I saw was, well, I got a problem with alcohol. I don't drink. I don't have any problem. Case closed. I don't really need the rest of this. I just need to kind of hang around here because these people are positive for me, and I'll get things straightened out, and then I'll go on about my life and be fine. And what I learned after that 2 years of doing that is the progression of alcoholism. I finally went back out after about 2.5 years, and it was tremendous how fast I picked back up and just hit the ground running again. And another thing that I learned in that period of time was even I remember when I decided to go back out after that 2.5 years, I had this delusion in my mind of like, well, I know what I need to do. I'll just go back to Alcoholics Anonymous and then I'll be fine. And this is the progression I was talking about. It took me another 1.5 years to get planted in Alcoholics Anonymous after that. I couldn't put any time together at all. I used to be able to stop with sufficient reason if I got in enough trouble or backed into a corner. And after that 2.5 year stint of staying sober and then going back out, I couldn't put any time together. I'd maybe put 24 hours together, and I'd go to a meeting, and I would tell those people that I was going to die if I didn't stop. And I would walk out of there, and I would be drunk again. So basically what happened to me is over that 1.5 years, I got sufficiently beat down. And I got beaten into a state of reasonableness, into a place where I got a gift of desperation. And basically what had happened is I was staying out in South Carolina, and I was riding on a Greyhound bus back towards Kansas City where I had lived and been in AA. And a thought came to me, just came into my head. I'd always ran to Alcoholics Anonymous because I was afraid I was going to die. And what occurred to me that day was, what if I don't die? What if I just continue to live this cycle over and over and over? You know, I'm not going to die. You know, and by that time I had seen people, you know, that had been doing this for I only drank for 9 years. I only went in and out for 6 years. I'd ran into people that had been doing this for over 10 years, 20 years, going in and out, going into prisons, going into institutions. And that was a big realization for me, because that occurred to me all at once, and I realized the truth about me, that I'm not going to die. I'm just going to keep doing this over and over and over. And like I said, I think that's a gift, and the gift that came that day was willingness. And I decided right then that I was going to do whatever was asked of me. I went to a treatment center like I had done many times before, and they told me about a place out here. And I came out here, and I did what they told me to do. And, my motives were still not great. My motives were still, I had a lot of stuff chasing me from the past, and I wanted to get away from it. And I thought, geographically I'll move away and I'll get away from it. But essentially what had happened to me is, like I said, I had that realization. Then I got honest with myself that I am an alcoholic and that I cannot manage my own life. And just real quick before I get off, I just want to talk about one thing that was a big deal to me. When I was about 6 months sober, I started going to this Saturday morning meeting. and it had a lot of old timers in it. And I met a man in there, and that man's my sponsor today. And I don't know why. I didn't have a sponsor at the time. I was 6 months sober. I wasn't really doing a whole lot. But I had seen him around, and I'd heard him share before. And one day I was walking past him in the hall, and I asked him if he would sponsor me. And he met with me, a couple days later, and sat with me and told me something that kind of changed my life forever. Is he challenged me to pray. He told me that the man that had helped him essentially had told him to get on his knees and ask God for the strength to stay clean and sober today. And that's what he told me. And like I said, I had gotten that gift of desperation. This grace had come in, and I don't know why. I don't take any credit for any of this, but I did that, and I started to do that every day. And as a result of that, I had more experiences, and I developed this connection. And I just, it says in the ABCs, the essence of the first two steps, it's that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. I'd pretty much tried everything, medical, therapeutic, everything like that, and that God could and would if he were sought. And it says being convinced right after that, and I thought that I had to read that and be convinced. Well, what I learned through this man kind of guiding me along was that the only way that I was going to become convinced was I was going to have to try it for myself, and I was going to have to take the action, and then I was going to have to find out. So I'm extremely grateful to be here. Thank you for asking me to speak, and with that, I will pass. Thanks.